automatic progression, no repeat policy. Oh my word, what should we do about it? What about our children? Let's just quickly consider the context around this policy. So, in 2016, there was the PILS study. PILS is performance in international reading literacy study. And in that study, 50 countries participated. And in that study, South Africa came stone last. It's not very flattering. But what was amazing, and we need to understand the context of that study once again, it was done with grade 4 learners. Why grade 4 learners? Grade 4 is a pivotal year in any child's life. Any preschool child, and teacher will tell you, if the child is not school ready, it will show when the child is in grade 4, because it's transition. It's the time in some schools where mother tongue is spoken in the foundation phase. In grade 4, in some schools, there's a transition to English. Or there's also a transition from foundation phase to intermediate phase. And what does that mean? Basically 3 subjects in foundation phase, 7 or more in intermediate phase. So, what does all of this mean? It means it's a very important year in a child's life, and internationally that's recognized, and that's where this international study on reading literacy, that's how that whole thing came about. And our performance was really, really very poor. But there's a reason for that poor performance. You see, because it's the transition period, if skills weren't consolidated in foundation phase, what kind of skills? Simple skills. Simple skills like physical skills. Simple skills like language skills. That means the ability to understand the language, to hear it, to understand it, to be able to speak it, and then in time, once you're really proficient on an auditory level, to transition to symbolic language, which means to read and to write it, or to write and to read it. So if language skills aren't in place, if physical skills aren't in place, if emotional skills aren't in place, social skills, cognitive skills, thinking skills, if they aren't in place, it's very, very difficult for a child to conceptualize, and it's close to impossible to transition to the level of reading for meaning in grade 4. So in foundation phase, the children are taught to read. In the intermediate phase, grade 4 specifically, grade 4, first year of the intermediate phase, grade 4, they need to read for meaning, so they can study. So you see, if the basic skills aren't in place, how are they going to read for meaning? So the PILS report not only indicated that South Africa came stone last, but it also showed that 78% of the children in grade 4 in South Africa, and it's representative of all schools, private schools, public schools, schools in rural areas, it's a representative of all grade 4 learners in South Africa. 78% of our children showed in grade 4 that they're not proficient in reading for comprehension. Now that's worrying, especially within the context that those children had normal education, meaning they were taught, they were assessed. They were taught, they were assessed. If they didn't acquire skill, they were remediated. In some schools, there was a lack of remediation because there's no opportunity, there's no availability. For whatever reason, they weren't remediated, so they progressed naturally. Not only did the PILS report show us that there's a hiccup with literacy levels in South Africa, the tremendous percentage of grade 1 learners that need to repeat grade 1 because they haven't acquired the fundamental skills that they can apply in grade 2. That was another indicator that there's really a hiccup within the South African context in terms of literacy. And that problem, the bottleneck of the number of learners repeating grade 1, was actually at the root of the decision, it seems to be, according to the documentation, for the no repeat or automatic progression amendment to curriculum that's being considered at the moment. I vehemently oppose that approach. If we don't consolidate the foundation phase, if we don't consolidate the foundation, how on earth are we going to have solid walls and a solid roof? Think of brain development, think of child development. Think of it as building a house. So the foundation actually determines the stability of the rest of the house. And from a mindless perspective, we look at the foundation of the house as the ability to manage your own body, your sensory input and your motor output. So that's that ability to be able to perceive, to comprehend, and to act age appropriately. Because it's only when the foundation is firmly in place that a child can really feel confident about themselves, be curious to learn more, feel good about going to school in the morning. And that, from the Institute side, we look at the walls of a house to represent the child's emotional development. And it's once a child has conquered their body and they can now sit still and straight. Why is still and straight so incredibly important? Because the eyes only work optimally for reading and writing. They only work optimally if the body is nice and stable. It's like a camera. If the camera is moving, the image is blurring, even the sound is affected. So we want the children not to be little soldiers, but we want them to be so well developed that they can sit still and straight and write and read with great ease, learn to write and read with great ease in grade 1. So if the foundation is strong and a child feels good about themselves, it's so much easier to create friendships and to learn in a group environment when I feel that I belong. Our model indicates that the windows and the doors represent that connection between people, interaction between my peers and also myself and my teacher. So that's social development. And it's only when there's a stable foundation, solid walls, movable windows and doors that allows for interaction, and that we can really put the roof on the house, and that roof represents all academic learning. That's the world of symbols, that's the world of concepts, that's the world of every academic subject sits in the roof of the house. So you need the bottom of the house to develop properly before the roof, academic performance, can really be enhanced. So the no-repeat policy, or the automatic progression policy, is suggested based on other countries where they implemented the no-repeat policy, automatic progression, and it worked in those countries. I read in the SROE press statement that apparently the performance of countries like Canada, Finland, Singapore, there's a couple of other, New Zealand, there's a couple of other countries as well. Their performance on the polls showed us, they surpassed us by far. But they do use that policy, the no-repeat policy. But we need to ask ourselves, are we comparing apples to apples? How many official languages do they have? How big are their classes? What is the ratio, teacher to pupil ratio? How many assistants per classroom? When a child is battling with something, what is the process? What's the procedure to support that child? Are they pulled out of the classroom? Is there somebody skillful to support that child? Are they remediated with an assistant in the classroom? How is that whole process managed? We need to ask ourselves, what percentage of the budget is actually in those countries allocated and invested in the foundation phase to establish a very solid foundation? You see, in our country, very often, there's a huge focus on maths and science in high school. The thing is, if a child can't read and write properly, if they haven't mastered the fundamentals of literacy, maths and science are concepts. How do you conquer that? The context is our grade 4 learners were assessed and they were found lacking. Our current grade 1 performance is showing that our grade 1s are lacking. So where's the problem really? It's preschool. When children come to grade 1, they're actually not ready from the transition of learning on a concrete level to learning in a symbolic way. Because the ABC, it's symbols. A 1, 2, 3, it's symbols. It's not real things. A triangle, a square, a rectangle, they're symbols. A full stop, a comma, it's a symbol. A plus and a minus and the equals, they're all symbols. It's abstract concepts. It's impossible for a child. It's impossible for a child to leap without a bridge from concrete learning to symbolic learning. And that's the purpose of grade R. In our country, we have grade R. But the problem with the grade R in our country very often is it is a mini grade 1. A lot of grade 1 work has filtered down to grade R. So again, there's a bridge needed, and now there's a lot of talk about a pre-grade R. Where must the money come from? You know, if you think about it, we've got 4 years grade R, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. That's foundation phase. We've got 4 years to teach children to learn, to write, and to read. We can do it. We can do it, South Africa. We don't have to keep on expanding on what we've already got. We just need to do it smartly. One of the problems is language. Because how do you read and write a language that you don't understand or speak? So language is huge. If a language of learning is not fully established preschool, you cannot conquer the symbols of that language in grade 1. So if we think about this, grade R's are wonderful here. And if children are fed in the morning before grade R starts, so all children have some nourishment before they start school, and if teachers really understand all children need preschool, is theme-based, multi-sensory experiences to develop language and skills, physical skills, emotional skills, social skills, and intellectual skills. We can do it in a year. We can do it in a year if our teachers are trained properly and we burn every single worksheet and every single coloring in picture. Because, don't accept what I'm saying, ask yourself, if I give you a tick list and you need to tick off your groceries, or if I give you a blank page and you need to go and make your own list, which of those two activities, tick list, blank page, where's the challenge level? Blank page. Every artist will tell you the most intimidating thing on earth is a blank page. And that's what is needed in preschool. In preschool, lots more physical development, not free running around, developing skills, the one on top of the other one. First growth motor, then fine motor. We also need, when children conquer their physical body, emotional well-being is a given. Obviously, safety supports that feeling of emotional well-being. But that also makes them so much easier to develop on a social level, to feel that I belong. Without language, it's very difficult to feel that you belong, never mind learn. And when those fundamental skills are in place, and children preschool do not touch a single letter of the alphabet, but they learn to develop their ears, to learn the sounds of the letters of the alphabet, the sounds that make up language. When they transition to grade 1, and the grade 1 teacher, the Department of Education, takes out the fluff, and we focus on writing and reading in grade 1, conquering the letters of the alphabet, all those symbols on a concrete level, Play-Doh, sandpaper, drawing in the sand with your finger, with a stick, wet sand, dry sand, that kind of simple activity in grade 1, the chances are excellent. A decent grade R and a concrete-based grade 1, chances are excellent. At the end of grade 1, the majority of the learners would be able to transition to grade 2 because they've acquired the most fundamental skills necessary to write and to read. In grade 2, they can consolidate those skills. In grade 3, we can challenge them with robotics and programming and coding and all of those things, but not before they've acquired the fundamental ability to converse, read and write a language. You may hear, I often say, write before read. Why do I do that? If you watch a preschool child, what do? They take a blank piece of paper, after they've been to the zoo, they've went out on an activity, there was a theme discussion in the class, they've learned something new. If the teacher gives that child a blank page, it doesn't look so good, but they are actually acquiring the skill of turning what is in my head into a two-dimensional image on paper. It's a skill. It takes years to hone that skill. But the moment they have drawn their picture, it is a right brain way of writing. It's picture form. And the moment you ask them, what have you just written? They can read it to you. So the natural process of acquiring language seems to be writing that enables me to understand. When I write, I am speaking on paper. And when I'm reading, I'm actually listening to what somebody else said on paper. They are fundamental skills that preschool children can occur in a relatively short period of time, given that they're healthy, given that they've got sufficient nourishment, and passionate, well-informed preschool teachers. Then we can have children who will automatically progress, but it's skills-based. They've got it, and therefore they are ready to progress naturally with their self-esteem intact. I'm asking you, with everything that I've got in me, to join every drive that's going on in the country at the moment to beg the powers to be in our country to stop, to think, and to reconsider this policy. It is not in the best interest of our children, definitely not in the best interest of the children in the rural areas.